You want to know what really grinds my gears? It's really simple, but apparently to some people is just too much to handle. And that concept is communication. I don't care if you're a man, woman, or anything in between, what your personality type is, or whatever, us humans are social creatures. And with that in mind, we need to be able to communicate and express ourselves in order to get along with others in our lives. Unless you plan on living the life of a hermit, but not a lot of people get away with that. You can't always ignore a problem, give snide little jabs at it, or flat out scream your way to victory. In most scenarios, there's a most optimal way to communicate. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 communication styles and when they are best used. I'm sorry if this seems overly educational, but when I took oral comm, I found this concept very interesting and I think it's applicable to everybody. The first style is passive, and it occurs when someone generally wants to avoid conflict, giving in to others and what they want, and they don't really express their feelings back to them, which can often lead to a miscommunication or even resentment in the long run. This style was the one I grew up with on because I was taught to always bend over backwards for everyone, and that inviting conflict was a bad thing. I especially acted this way in regards to my friends. I never really told them that I felt a way that could cause potentially hurt feelings, and instead just took a back seat and avoided anything that could lead to any trouble. In the long run, though, I did develop that resentment for how many years I kept my opinions to myself. It wasn't fair on me, and of course, my friends just got used to me never stirring the pot, naturally taking advantage of me, not out of malicious intent, but because they didn't understand and thought that's just who I was. It led to a dangerous lashing out towards the end of high school that I could have avoided if I just realized that no one's meant to hold their feelings in forever and hope that no one will ever hurt them or take advantage of them. People are naturally selfish. One other example of passive behavior is, let's say, an example of a girl who lives with other girls in an apartment. She's very generous and is always the one to clean the bathroom, wash the dishes, and normally just keep things tidy around the apartment. Her roommates might initially try to help, but after a while, they just don't worry about it and they get used to her doing the work and it's beneficial to them. That girl doesn't want conflict or to make anyone feel bad, so she never says anything, but deep down, she feels upset and they don't even really try to help her anymore, and that bothers her. That is passive communication, and it should never be implemented on a regular basis, at least not with the people close in your life. It can be good on rare occasions, though, like if you're about to head into an argument with someone that you know will be long and ugly with various disagreements and maybe even hurt feelings, you can use the passive style in order to just shrug it off and save yourself the trouble. And it could be a good way to avoid conflict. It's best implemented in situations where there's nothing to lose, but if it occurs over long periods of time, that's when the problems start. The next style is aggressive, whose users tend to dominate others in a conversation by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, or attacking the person they're talking to. They're never one to back down, and they have to make sure to get their point across at the same time of stomping someone else's opinions and ideas without actually really caring what they have to say about it. There's someone in my life I feel has had this style, and might still, and the telltale signs of it included shutting me down, trying to discredit my opinion based on something that didn't really have anything to do with the situation, and overall just trying to have the upper hand instead of making communication a two-way street that both parties can learn something for. She often honed in on weak spots or simply repeated points over and over again, and these communicators that are aggressive, they have no interest in seeing the other side. The goal of their communication isn't to get along or to make anyone else feel better, they just want their own gratification. Aggressive communicators were always the ones that bothered me most growing up. But now I see that people who use it are honestly one of the most childish, who can't even handle not getting their way or being wrong. They don't have the emotional maturity to care about other people's feelings, which I can't understand in the slightest because I'm an extremely sensitive person. The only time I think this style might be appropriate is against a stranger in order to try to shut things down quickly because you never want to use it on someone you care about because that shows a clear lack of generally being sympathetic and may cause some serious damage to your relationship. Another style that is now my new least favorite is the passive aggressive communication style. People who use this one, they look like they're passive, but behind the scenes, they're simmering and trying to be indirect or secret to hurt someone. They can deny there's a problem, but they'll always seek to not directly address it, using methods like the silent treatment, spreading rumors behind somebody's back, or even sabotaging them. This is the style that's been irritating me so much lately because passive aggressive people can be the biggest dickheads. With passive people, there's hope that with enough consideration, maybe you can coax out what they really want. Not always, but at least just showing them the negative impact that their style is having and what could be, secretly happening. Aggressive people are just bulls. They're loud, obvious, and easy to avoid and drop off the face of the planet, and I wouldn't sick them on anybody. But the passive aggressive people are tricky because they could pretend to be a great friend to you, to your face, but behind the scenes, they could be making up stuff about you, telling your mutual friends that you're awful. And for what? Nothing. That's what. I hate this communication style because it's so self indulgent and petty. If you have a problem with someone, you need to grow up and communicate with them. I'd rather have an aggressive person yelling in my face so I can cut them off properly and be done with it, rather than just grieving and being worried and scared. Like I might be hurting that person or bothering my friend, but they won't even have the maturity to talk to me about it and tell me what's wrong like a goddamn adult. The worst part is that you can confront these people and ask what's wrong, but they'll still brush it off and keep doing things behind the scenes, like ignoring you. Yet when you ask them, they just tell you you're being ridiculous, even though there is clearly a problem. I hate that so much. And if you do that to anybody and will never come clean about something, either you don't actually care about that person that you're being passive aggressive to, or you're just a prick. Please don't mentally torture the people in your life by being passive aggressive. I can't even think of a good scenario for it. Maybe just to let off some steam without going full force on someone you don't like, who's not really your friend, but besides that, if you're going to see them regularly, then there's just no point. The last style is the best one and generally considered to be the best one, and that's assertive communication. Assertive people are effective because it's a middle ground between all of the rest. It allows you to speak your opinion, but also you're being sensitive of the person you're talking to. You're not ignoring or brushing off the things they're saying, but you're also not letting them walk all over you. This style encourages honesty among parties and the potential to fix problems in relationships by putting everything on the table, not as an attack, but potentially working together with someone to create a better dynamic moving forward. You gently explain how you feel without being overbearing or avoiding the situation, and you hope that they will meet you halfway. To me, this is the obvious favorite, and I think everybody should strive for that kind of open and honest communication, at least in regards to relationships and friendships you care about in your life and that's worth protecting and watching out for. When we grow up, we think that this is common knowledge, but sometimes in our interactions over time, we develop other styles and methods that feel more comfortable to us, but in the long run, they might not be so effective. So, my advice is this. Now that you know the communication styles, you can choose which one fits best in each given situation. But for each one, you need to be aware of the downside too. If you see yourself primarily acting in one and understand the negative impact it might be having on your life, I encourage you to try to adopt the assertive style. Some pals of mine like my big rants, so this one's for you guys. Thanks for having my back, and I hope to create good content for you all in the future.